Just look how tight things are down the bottom of the Championship table this season. Hello guys, how are we all doing? Welcome back to yet another video. Today we are dissecting the Championship relegation battle for the 22-23 season and giving my predictions for how I think things are going to look in May. One thing I must say whilst looking at this table is there's no team cut adrift. It is so tight that even bottom team Wigan are only 3 points from safety. At this rate, we could go into the final day of the season with no teams relegated and loads of teams playing for survival. Well, here's my thoughts, guys. We're going to go through the teams down the bottom end of the table. Realistically, I don't think any team above 16th is going to go down. It's possible, but let's concentrate on the teams 16th and downwards, starting with Hull City. Hull City, in my opinion, won't go down. Let's get that out there straight away. Hull City are staying up. If anything, I think they're going to climb the table as the season goes on. Since Rosenior's come in, Hull City have actually looked a better team. 1 defeat in 8 in the league, which is fantastic. And even in the FA Cup against Fulham, I thought they played some decent stuff. As you can see, they're 7 points clear of that bottom 3, and the bottom 3 is only moving at around a point per game. So Hull City would have to go on a pretty bad run to get sucked back into shooting territory of those bottom 3. Like I say, really good run. They're unbeaten in 5. The manager Rosenior is doing pretty well. After 10 games, we can start to say this is a good sample size to judge him on. And if anything, Hull City are actually pushing up the table. Another good thing for Hull City is they have got a goal scorer there. Oscar Estupinan has got 11 goals for the season. And when you're down in a battle at the bottom end of the table, a goal scorer is going to be so crucial to getting you away with those goals. Hull City are staying up. Let's move on to Birmingham City, who find themselves in 17th. I think Birmingham City are going to stay up this season. I feel quite confident saying that. They're a Championship regular. They know what they need to do to cross the line. And if anything, I think they could push up the table in the second half of the season. It was only 3 games ago we found them in 8th place. So 3 defeats in a row to drop them down 9 places is just the nature of how tight the Championship table is this season. It's so tight that Birmingham City have dropped so far, but like I say, they could recover that with 2 wins in the next 3. They could be back in that top half. So Birmingham City, in my opinion, are not going to go down. They've been better than the bottom 3 this season. I think actually, to be fair, looking at what they've done under Eustace, I do think they've improved this season on the last couple seasons. Yes, you look at the table and you think, 17th, but like I say, 3 games ago, they were in the top 10. So you can cut it 2 ways, if you know what I mean. I do think they've got a good back line. They've got the best defence in that bottom 8, and they've got goal scorers there as well. And like I say, I think Eustace has done a decent job with this Birmingham City team, and I've got to put my hands up and say at the start of the season I was a bit unsure about them, but I think John Eustace is doing a good job. I think they'll stay up and maybe could crack on a bit more next season. Next then, Stoke City down in 18th. Stoke City are always a tricky team to judge in the Championship. You never know which direction they're going in, and to be honest, you've got to say at this moment in time they're not completely clear of the bottom 3 battle, but once again, I do think Stoke City will stay up. I think they've got more than enough to stay up this season. They are only currently 4 points above the bottom 3, which is not a massive gap to have, and with some big games coming, they could find themselves with an even smaller gap over the bottom 3. But as a whole, I do think that squad is good enough. I just don't know if Alex Neil is the right manager to take them forwards. I mean, they're okay, but they're not setting the world on fire. If you look at their recent records, they have lost back-to-back games with just 1 win in 6. They've got the 2nd worst home record in the Championship, and their top goal scorer is Lewis Baker, who's only on 5 goals. So not a lot going for Stoke City, which makes me think they will be in the bottom half this season, but I think they're better than the bottom 3. Maybe a big change in the summer is needed if Stoke City are to advance, because I think they're a club with more potential than being down in 18th place. Next up in 19th, you find Bristol City. Bristol City have had a strange season so far. They lost their first game at Hull City, and then I remember them recovering a little bit, but since August they've only had 1 home win, which is terrible. Honestly, I do think they look a little bit better on the road. I think that's something Nigel Pearson has come out and said about there is a bit of this toxic nature and the Bristol City fans aren't completely on board with him, and I agree, to be honest. I'm not 100% sure if I do rate Nigel Pearson in the long term for Bristol City. I mean, maybe if he sees out the season and keeps Bristol City up, then a change is needed for Bristol City, because once again we're looking at a team here that had potential a couple of years ago but currently find themselves battling for survival. I do think once again Bristol City will stay up. They've got more than enough to do it, in my opinion. They've got goal scorers there, which is obviously an important thing. Conway, Naki Wells, Semenyo, Vyman. They've got plenty of options competitions for goal power, but I just don't think this is going to be a fun season for Bristol City fans to remember, even though I am backing them to stay up. It's just 2 points in their last 4 games. In 20th place, you find Cardiff City. Cardiff have not had a very good season. They're just above that bottom 3, 2 points ahead of it. But, like I say, if Blackpool or Huddersfield or any of those just put a good run together, I think Cardiff will get sucked into it. They're winless in 8 games in all competitions, which is really worrying. They're the lowest goal scorers in the division with 20 goals in 26 games, which is absolutely appalling. And their top goal scorer is Robinson, who's just on 4 goals. So not much attacking threat there. So if they're going to concede goals, I really don't see how they're going to find their way back into games. They just don't carry a threat going forwards, in my opinion. So although Cardiff City have been established in the Championship for a while and they came down from the Premier League a few years ago, I actually think this could be a season where Cardiff City go down. It's not good enough, and I really do feel for the fans. In 21st place, we find Rotherham United. It's not a surprise to see Rotherham battling for survival once again in the Championship, but go back to 10-15 games into the season and Rotherham were looking pretty steady. They looked like a well-established Championship side, but at the moment, they are trending down at a real bad pace with 1 point in 5 games since the World Cup. It almost seems like the World Cup came at the worst time possible for Rotherham United. It is worth mentioning the managerial change this season could be what could cost them in the long run. I feel like a lot of people will say, would Paul Warne have kept them up if he'd have stayed there this season? Perhaps he might have done, but there just isn't a lot there for Rotherham United that makes me think they will stay up at this moment in time. They really need to switch that form back into what they were doing in the first 10-15 games of the season. They've scored 8 goals on the road in 14 away games, which is so poor. They just don't look like picking up any away wins at the moment, and they've only kept 2 clean sheets since September, so that's a really worrying stat as well. I think Rotherham United will go down. Like I say, at the start of the season, most people did predict them to go down. Then they had a good start and everyone's mind changed on that, and now I'm not too sure. I do think they're going to go down. Rotherham United, I think, will slip down into League One again. Let's move on to 22nd place. We find Blackpool. Blackpool, since the World Cup, have been draw heavy with 4 draws in 5 games. Now, you might look at that and say, well, where's the wins at? But it shows a competitive nature that they're in these games, and obviously they're not far away from winning them. If anything, they did win their last game in the FA Cup against the Nottingham Forest side that was slightly rotated, but a great win for Blackpool to boost the confidence. And I do think if Blackpool continue to play the way they are and keep churning out around a point per game, that might just be enough to get them above that bottom 3. I'm saying Blackpool will stay up. It might not be a great season to look back on with fondness, but if they can just get above 22nd place and finish even just 21st this season, that would be great for the Blackpool fans. I think they could do it. I think there's enough about them. Like I say, they're tight in these games. When I saw them come to Coventry, they were really good. Obviously, they're not being particularly consistent in pulling out many wins at the moment, but they have got a goal scorer there in Jerry Yates, who's on 10 goals for the season. They've got a decent fan base behind them. I think Blackpool have maybe got enough to be better than 3 teams this season. Blackpool are staying up, in my opinion. In 23rd place, we find Huddersfield Town. Now, 7 months ago, they went into a playoff final against Nottingham Forest, and how different things could have been if they won that game and got into the Premier League. They now find themselves in 23rd in the Championship, and things have been really worrying this season. But let's concentrate on the here and now. Mark Fotheringham's come in since that bad start of the season, and he's churned out 19 points in 18 games. It's not amazing, but down there, if you're just above a point per game, I think that will just pull you over the line. I'm saying Huddersfield will stay up this season. I think it's going to be really close. I think Huddersfield Town's bad start is really why it's going to be a real struggle to get over the line, but they've got enough about them. Yes, it's been a frustrating season with a couple of injuries and departures, and Lee Nichols could be a really big miss, but they've brought in Knockaert. Could he be a decent player? Perhaps. I think they've improved, and they're churning out more points than the other teams in their last 6-7 games. I think Huddersfield Town will just get over the line this season. I'm backing the Terriers to stay up. So then we come on to the last team, which is Wigan Athletic, who are bottom of the table. And like I said at the start of this video, Wigan Athletic, despite being in really poor form, are not out of this. They're only 3 points from safety, which goes to show that they could be right in this until the end. I don't think things look great though for Wigan Athletic. I've got to say, Kolo Touré was a manager being appointed that I was a bit sceptical of. Yes, he could prove me wrong. Yes, he could turn things around. As I say, it's really close down there, but they've conceded 14 in their last 4 league games, conceding 3 times in those last 3 as well. Really worrying for Wigan Athletic. They've got a bit of goal power. If anything's going to keep them up, it probably is players like Will Keane who can get the ball in the back of the net, but that defence really needs sorting out. Kolo Touré was a decent defender in his day. Can he sort it out before it's too late? Because at this point in time, I think Wigan Athletic will be a team that goes down. So then guys, that wraps up my prediction of the Championship bottom 3. Let me know your opinions down in the comments. If you disagree, that's fine. Just let me know what your bottom 3 would be. Do make sure to hit that like button and do make sure to hit the red subscribe button. I'll see you all in the next video. Peace out.